What is going on, my beautiful LARPers and LARPers? Today we're going to cover a pretty controversial topic, and that is the modern lever action or the tactical lever action versus the traditional lever action, right? And this is just my opinion, guys. I'm not saying this is absolute. I'm just basically going to point out some of the things that I think are beneficial to have on a modern lever action compared to a traditional lever action. Hopefully by the end of this video, it'll all make sense to you. Maybe while I'm going through it, you're probably going to say, hey, that's stupid or whatever it is. But hopefully I'm able to kind of point out the key differences that will make a modern lever action, in my eyes, better than a traditional lever action. Modern lever actions have been hitting the social media scene pretty hard lately. I don't know if it's becoming a fad and everybody just wants to buy it because of they look cool on Instagram or YouTube and stuff like that, or they're actually buying them for a purpose. Hopefully, if you're just picking one up just because they're popular right now, I can help guide you through why they are popular for those people that actually buy them and build them out for purposes other than social media. And also, guys, I'm not going to even mention AR-15s or other type of platforms just because in my eyes, I do not think the modern or tactical lever action is superior to those. I think when it comes down to it and you're trying to compare an AR-15 to this, this really doesn't compare just because the AR-15 is just a superior platform. It's easier, faster to use, all that stuff. Maybe I should do a video on that and see lever actions versus AR-15s, or maybe I should do one that's versus like compliance AR-15s, right? Like 10 round mags or 7 round mags or whatever it is. So what is a modern lever action? I think the main thing that puts a lever action into the modern category when you're buying a stock one is the fact that it has a threaded barrel, because on traditional, they don't really come with threaded barrels, right? And it has a couple of updates here and there. So let me go over the updates that you'd be getting on a modern compared to a traditional lever action. So starting at the muzzle end, you'd get a threaded barrel. Then you'd get a front and rear sight that are fiber optic. And on the Henry Model X, you get a bigger loop for the lever here. If you can see on the traditional, it's a lot smaller than the one on the Model X here. Other than that, they're basically identical in everything else internally and all the other features and stuff like that. Let me make sure this thing's clear. So what makes it tactical in my eyes is all this other craziness you put on here, right? Like this rail and this stock. And why would you put a rail and this stock on in the first place? Well, let's get right into that, shall we? So on the rail, you get basically M-lock slots all the way from the front to the back, right? You get QD attachment points. So you got one here and one here on the other side. And that's pretty much the gist of the rail, right? It's a nice design. This is a Ranger Point Precision rail, and this is a Ranger Point Precision stock. Now, Ranger Point also sells these quivers that you can put your ammo in on the front and the back, and dependent on what caliber you have for your lever action dictates how many rounds you can put on there. Like this 45-70 here that I'm gonna bring in and out sometimes, I could only hold 6 rounds compared to 8 rounds on the 38 Special right there in front of you. And you could put this quiver upside down if you wanted to, or put it anywhere on the rail, but this is kind of where I have it. Because where that's placed right there, it's really easy for me to take a round out and kind of do this emergency or attack reload, whatever you want to call it. It's easier for me to do reloads from there. Another benefit to having a rail on your lever gun is the fact that you can put grips or a hand stop on there. I don't really go for the full grip. I like the hand stops just because I don't use the full grip regardless if I'm on an AR-15 or something like that. The hand stop is very beneficial for a couple of reasons, right? So obviously it's going to be doing its job to give me more of a leverage to pull that against my shoulder. But aside from that, I like the fact that I can brace this up against whatever I'm going to shoot on. You can see that I'm bracing it up against my vehicle. You can brace it up from the rear or the front portion of it, depending on what you want to do. So what I usually do is I use the back of the grip there, and I kind of put it up against something, and I use that as leverage and I squeeze it with my hand. So the front of my hand is grabbing whatever object I'm bracing on, and in the back of the grip, I'm kind of just squeezing into that to get a good solid foundation whenever I'm shooting. Now, another benefit to having an M-LOK rail on a lever action is the fact that I can put M-LOK dedicated flashlights onto it. And I think this is huge when you have a rail on a lever action. So if you're kind of looking there, it kind of sit like that, but since I have the button pad, I would use it on this side, but I don't have it configured to that side, so you get the point. You can put a flashlight on it. So having a flashlight on any firearm, I think, is a very smart idea to have, regardless of the platform you're using it on. Just because you want to be able to see what you're shooting at in the dark, right? Now, moving on to more benefits, you can put a 1913 style adapter onto that M-LOK rail. Again, you can use this to mount flashlights onto and stuff like that. But whoa, almost lost it there. But what a lot of people don't think about is lasers. Now, why the hell would you want a laser on a lever action? Not a lot of people own night vision, so they don't even think twice about putting lasers on their guns sometimes. But if you do own night vision, you definitely know how much of an asset it is to have a laser on your firearm, an IR laser specifically. It just helps you a ton when it comes to shooting under your night vision and getting nice accurate hits on target, as long as your laser's zeroed in, right? So if you were gonna slap that on there, it kind of look like that, right?
Oh! 100 yards, night vision, lever action.
But basically, you can mount anything your heart desires onto a M-LOK rail as long as it's M-LOK compatible. I don't even know half of the things that I could potentially mount on here. And before I forget, moving back to the threaded barrel, this has a silencer code tri-lug adapter here because I do like to shoot suppressed, and I slap the suppressor on every now and then when I get the chance. But that's another big thing for lever actions if you're gonna hunt with them, right? You want to be as quiet as you can, and that's one of the biggest downsides to a traditional, is that you don't have a threaded barrel and you can't slap a suppressor on these here. But also, aside from putting a suppressor on your lever action, you can put a muzzle brake on there. So why would you want a muzzle brake? Well, if you're shooting a gigantic 45-70 like this, that muzzle brake does do a significant job on reducing that felt recoil that's going through this gigantic gun. It's going to be pretty annoying to somebody that's shooting next to you, but it's going to help you get on target faster when you're going to do some follow-up shots, if you needed to do some follow-up shots. Now, moving on to the stock, it's an aluminum stock, and if I didn't mention, this rail's aluminum, obviously, but this whole stock is aluminum other than this top part here. This is like a plastic polymer piece, and on the back is a rubber butt pad, but everything else is aluminum on this. And while you're looking at this, you do have two screws here, and those are adjustment points to move the stock up and down to whatever optic you're going to be running on here. You can adjust it for that, or if you just want to feel more comfortable in a certain position, you can move that up and down. On a traditional lever action, you do not have that luxury because you just have a standard wooden stock on here that does not adjust at all. And like I pointed out earlier, you do have a quiver here, and this is a add-on that you can put onto this stock here. I don't know what else you can put on this stock if you don't have a quiver on there, but you do have some slots, so I would guess that they would come out with more accessories that you can put on the back of there. And last but not least, I don't have it on here. Let me get that for you. On a modern lever action, you can put a top 1913 rail there, and you can put any optic that you want. And just a little bit of advice, when you put in a LPVO like this primary arms here, you need to consider where your rounds are, just because it might get in the way if that optic is right there, right in front of it. So if you're looking at the top here, you can see that that optic mount kind of protrudes a little bit and gets in the way of pulling those rounds out. You can put that quiver upside down if you needed to, but I like my rounds facing up, so it's give and take. So yeah, even though I don't have one on here, just know that I can take those screws off and slap them out and put an optic on there. Now, other than that, guys, I don't think there's really anything else that's a major benefit to having a modern lever action over a traditional. But aside from all that, and I know you guys are probably yelling at your TV screens right now or your phone screens, let me go over how many of these features are even possible on the traditional lever action. You can put a majority of the accessories that I was talking about onto this compared to the rail. And let me just try to explain how I would kind of do it. Right here at the front, you do have this little sling loop here, but I know there's companies out there that make an adapter that connects to this sling loop that's a 1913 rail that you can put a bipod on. Also, if you do plan on putting a mount on your sling stud, some lever actions do not come with them. Like this one here, right? It does not come with a sling stud on the front of that. So they actually sell 1913 mounts that go over like your tube here. So it just really depends on the option that you want to go with. Flashlights. If you get one that doesn't have all this M-LOK stuff on there and you just get a plain flashlight, you can technically tape that onto your barrel just like that and have a light. It's not going to be the most stable or secure, but you will have a light on there if you needed it. And that's just a quick fix, guys. Just put your flashlight on there and tape it around and you're good to go. But if you want to get a little bit more of a secure mounting system, go ahead and get that 1913 style adapter and just go ahead and get a light that has a 1913 style base and you can slap that on to the bottom of that. As far as lasers, that 1913 style adapter will be able to utilize a laser. Not sure how stable that would be, but you'd be able to have a laser on there as well. So another thing that you can do on this traditional is buy a leather ammo holder. You can basically put the same amount of rounds onto the back of this stock here with a leather holder or quiver. But on the front, I haven't really seen any type of holders that hold the same amount of rounds that you can, like this tactical one there. I'm interested to know if there are some out there, but to my knowledge, I haven't really seen those. Now, those are basically the things that you can do on both of these platforms, and I'm just going to go over the things that I don't think you can really do unless you know of an option that you can. But on the foregrip here, you cannot put a hand stop or a grip. You won't be able to get a little bit more stability if you're going to rest that onto a vehicle or onto a whatever it is you're going to rest it onto to kind of brace yourself up against. The stock is another downside, I guess you can say. And I say that's a downside just because on my optics I have different size optic mounts that are taller and shorter. And it's nice to know that if I were to slap optics on my tactical lever action, I could adjust that stock up and down to whatever mount I have. On this one, if you put an adapter on here and put an optic, you won't really have that adjustment. You'd have to kind of like move your head around. And lastly, the biggest downside that I see to the traditional versus modern lever action debate is no threaded barrel. So that is pretty huge dependent on what you're doing, just because I love shooting suppressed and it is a huge benefit, but also in terms of reducing that recoil. If you're gonna put a muzzle brake on there, it definitely helps out, because if you ever shot one of these without a muzzle brake in 45-70, it's a pretty gnarly kickback that you're getting on that. So just the amount of options that you can put on a threaded barrel lever action is pretty cool. I know there's companies out there that thread barrels all day, so if you have sent your traditional lever action just to get a threaded barrel, please drop a comment down below, because I'm interested on how that works in terms of how much material they got to cut off, or if they just thread here, or if they got to do something to the tube. But aside from that, guys, the traditional lever action is still a very, very capable firearm. You're still able to do virtually anything that you're able to do with this gun. Just the fact that you cannot slap accessories on there does not mean that it is a terrible firearm. But with this day and age, with night vision and lasers and more people shooting at night and flashlights and bipods and all that stuff, people are wanting to be able to put that type of stuff on their firearms. And I think Ranger Point Precision is kind of like, there's a need for this type of thing and people love their lever action, so let's just give them something. And those of you that are out there yelling at your TV screens or yelling at your phone screens, I'm still with you on certain traditional lever actions that shouldn't be touched, even though I'm pointing out the benefits to a modern one. The wood on them is absolutely beautiful as well, and the way it just looks, I think it should just be left alone. And to bring another one up here, I have this Henry Big Boy, I believe is what it's called, or I don't think it's the Golden Boy. This is brass. I forgot the name of this guy, sorry about that. But something like this with this beautiful wood on here and this beautiful brass coloring, especially on the back of that buttstock there. The octagonal barrel, octagonal. I think this should not be touched as well. I would lose my shit if somebody put this type of rails on this beautiful gun here. So I think when it comes to putting these accessories on, I think they should be basically dedicated for the modern lever actions that are coming modern out of the factory, right? So the bigger loop, the threaded barrel, the fiber optic sights. But it's your rifle, do whatever the hell you want. But if you ever did swap that stuff out, these attachments and these rails and stocks aren't permanent. So if you ever decided to one day give up on your tactical or modern lever action midlife crisis that you're going through, you can definitely just slap this wood back on and have a traditional lever action again. So, but aside from that, guys, hopefully I didn't confuse you more. Once you start adding a laser, a bipod, or a flashlight, taping a flashlight to that, or putting an optic rail with a red dot, isn't that technically modernizing your traditional lever action anyways? So hopefully I was able, I'm not trying to end a debate. Don't get me wrong, I still think this debate's gonna go on forever. I'm not trying to sway people to adding those attachments. I'm just trying to point out basically what you're able to do on a modern lever action. And if I forgot to mention something, guys, I apologize. Write it down below because I do like making these videos for you guys and I like to do updates and stuff like that. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I appreciate you all. Love you all. Catch you in the next one.